Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is another episode of Chit Chatting with Sophie. So, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you guys about some of the challenges I faced once I became a teen mom. So, I had my son Craig February 9th, 2004. And after I gave birth, I was in the 11th grade. I had to go back to school. So, I ended up going back to school. I had to sign up for a homeschool teacher. So I remember one day just strapping Craig inside the baby carrier, going up to the school, having a meeting with the principal, letting them know that I was a transfer back into the school because I had just left a disciplinary school where I actually met my current fiance Marquise at years ago. I actually met him when I was pregnant with Craig. So I'll talk about that too. But just getting back on target. I went to the school and I signed up for homeschool and yeah, I did homeschool for 6 weeks. The homeschool teacher, she came to my house a couple days out the week, and I was able to keep my grades so I wouldn't fall behind because that was one of my biggest issues. I didn't want to fall behind. I wanted to graduate on time, which I did graduate on time in 2005. But I had to take myself out of day school and enroll in a twilight program and also do Saturday school because I was messing up. I was cutting class. I wasn't going to class. I just wasn't focused. So I basically had to remove myself from day school because I was being too much of a follower and just not doing the right thing. My mind wasn't in it. So I remember having a conversation with Marquise, and he was telling me that it was a girl in his class, and she had two kids, and she was coming to school every day. She was doing her work, and that really motivated me to get my act together and to figure out what was best for me. And I decided to just put Craig in a daycare that stayed open later in the day, and I went to Twilight. What was it, from like 3 to 6, and I did Saturday school. So my mom and my sister, they continued to help me while I finished high school. Now after I graduated, I ended up working at Kmart, and I did that for a while until me and my mom got into it one too many times because it was rough, and she told me I had to leave. I became homeless, and I didn't know what to do. I ended up staying with my best friend Amber mom because Amber was on her way to college, and I was like, wow, like that was another thing. Like everybody was going away to college, and then I was here with a baby. Like you don't know how it makes you feel until it's happening. So all my friends that graduated with me were on their way to college. So yeah, Amber went. She was in school already in college, and then my girlfriend Dominique, she graduated the year after us, and she was on her way to college. I remember calling Dominique like, I'm sleeping all day. At the time when my mom put me out and I started staying with Amber's mom, my son's father and his mother took my son in since I was homeless. So Craig ended up staying with them for 6 months because I didn't have anywhere to stay. Um, so I stayed with Amber's mom for a while, Miss Michelle, and then Dominique came to pick me up, and I went to go stay with her and her mom, who's we call her Aunt Sue. So thank you guys for allowing me to be in your homes in that time in my life because all of those things make me who I am today. I could have never got to where I'm in today if it wasn't for people loving me and caring about me and motivating me. Um, so I remember when Dominique was telling me she was about to go to school. I told Dom like, "Hey, I'm about to call some shelters and go to a shelter," and she was like, "No, you don't have to go into a shelter. You can stay here in my room while I'm at school." And I was like, "Nah." And Amber, she was the same way. Like she was so upset that I wanted to go to a shelter. She felt like I didn't need to go to a shelter. Like because they wanted to help me, like because basically we were like family. They didn't want to see me there, but I had to do what was best for me because I had a son, and I know that I didn't want to keep living with my friends and their moms. I didn't want to be a burden. I wanted to figure it out. So eventually I went to this shelter called Wing Hall, um, in Germantown, Philadelphia. It was a Christian based shelter. I went there for an interview. The lady there, the director there, um, Sister Rita, she prayed with me, and then she offered me a place to stay with my son. So I remember calling Craig's dad and telling him that I got into a shelter, and it was really clean. I was getting my own room because it was like a mini mansion and it only housed women and children. So I felt like it would be a safe place for us to get a fresh start. My son's father, he really didn't want me to go, but he understood after a while that it was something that I needed to do so I can get our son back and I could get my own place and get some guidance. So he agreed for me to get the baby back, and he actually dropped me and Craig off at the shelter, and he helped me move in, like brought all my stuff. So I was very grateful to Craig. Yeah, Craig actually dropped me off at the shelter, and it was so much because just remembering this, like how I felt, like I felt so relieved that I finally found somewhere to stay. So thank you to Craig for just allowing me to do that. Rest in peace, Craig. Actually, he's no longer here, my son's father, and we'll touch base into that. He passed away 2008 from bone cancer, but I'll touch base on that. But at the time in my life, Craig was very important with helping me get my life back on track. So I can't forget the people who helped me grow and get to where I was and believed in me, believed in me that I could do it. So I ended up living in a Christian shelter. It was the hardest experience I had to do, listening to rules, doing chores every day. Even though I grew up doing chores, just like, this ain't my house, I don't want to have to do these chores, but it was mandatory, not just to keep my room clean, but to have to do house chores. I'm in a shelter now, and I'm going to church every Sunday. I'm learning the Bible. I'm doing Bible study every day. I was on this strict schedule, okay? I had a curfew. Curfew was like 7 o'clock during the week. And mind you, I went to the shelter in July. So yeah, a curfew at 7 o'clock in the summertime, that was not ideal for me. That was not what I was used to, and that's not what I wanted to do. But that's something I had to do for me and my son. So I had a job at the time. I was working at the airport. I had to quit my job at the airport and because they had this strict schedule. You couldn't leave out the house before 6 a.m. I had to be to work at 6 a.m. The job I was working at the airport was from 6 to 2. Actually, Amber got me the job because she worked there before she went to school. So, I was just like, I was frustrated. I remember my manager telling me, like, she was like, why are you in the shelter? Can't you stay with someone else? You got to do what you got to do. You got to work. And I was like, oh, I can't work. So basically, I'm homeless. I'm jobless. The most stressful. Have you ever been homeless and jobless with children? You understand. It's not a good feeling. You feel worthless. You feel lonely. You feel like a disgrace. You feel just at your lowest point in life. And that's how I felt. And to top it off, while I'm in the shelter, maybe a couple, like 2 weeks later, not even, we found out that my son's father, Craig, was sick. And he had bone cancer. And it was severe. He was in stage 4. And if that wasn't a hurt piece, I don't know what was. Like that, nothing could prepare you for that. So it was hard. It was a tough pill to swallow because he was a big part of my support system when it came down to helping me and Craig. Like, no matter if we were on good terms or bad terms, he always made sure that Craig had what he needed, and he actually made it really easy for me not to have to, worry about sneakers or clothes, because I knew that I wasn't having to do everything by myself. And when he came with a lot of stuff. He came with not 1 pair of sneakers, but 2 and 3 pairs of sneakers. And, it was like a big shock to me when we found out Craig was sick, because he didn't look sick. and it just came out of nowhere. But I'll get back into that. But anyway, so yeah, so we found out Craig was sick, so my whole world was upside down emotionally, and actually going to church actually helped me through that tough time in my life. I can honestly say that going to church, praying, it really helped me meditate and just focus on what I needed to do. So I ended up hitting Craig in daycare, and I started going to like the welfare to work program. I used to go to the Earn Center, and I would be on a computer looking for jobs and talking to the counselors there. And eventually, one day I was at the Earn Center, and it was time to leave, and I was down Center City in Philadelphia, and I walked past the Banana Republic on Broad and Walnut, and I walked in, and they had a sign on the door that said we're hiring. So when I walked in, I went to the cash register and I asked the lady, was they hiring? She said, yeah. I took the card. I went back to the Earn Center because it was like literally on the next block. And I filled out the application for Banana Republic, and I left to start going to Dominique House. And as soon as I had got to Dominique House, I had a voicemail on my phone saying that they wanted to interview me for a position at Banana Republic. And if that wasn't like a shock to me, like I've never put an application in and got a phone call the same day I submitted the application. And it was actually Tiffany. So all my Banana Republic friends, if you see that, Tiffany, she actually was the one who called me and interviewed me for my first job at Banana Republic, and I was really excited about that. So I ended up getting a job at Banana Republic, and I was so happy. It was a different experience for me. It was a different atmosphere. I was going down Center City every day. I was happy. So I actually stayed in the shelter for like over a year. And then I was able to get into this housing in Philadelphia called Achievability. And this house, either getting your GED or taking college courses. So I ended up getting accepted to Achievability, getting my own apartment, enrolling in school at Community College of Philadelphia. Now, mind you, at this time, Craig's father was sick. He had cancer. So everything that was happening like, it was happening so fast. I remember Craig again helping me move into my apartment with my son. He paid this guy to come pick our stuff up and drop us off, and it was like, wow, like we finally out the shelter. It only took a year, but it was still a reminder that Craig was sick and that he wasn't doing well. So with that, and I was still working, and my job, I was working part-time, going to school part-time, working part-time, and taking care of my son. So unfortunately, once Craig turned 4 years old on April 18th, 2008, his father passed away, and that really crushed me. It was one of the most toughest times in my life, because I had to explain to my child that his dad had died and he was gone. And I was 20 years old. I had never experienced death before that close to me, and I was so upset with God, because I was like, why is he doing this to my son? Like, why is he making my son go through this? And I remember the lady from the shelter calling me to pray with me, and I was like, I don't want to pray. Like, I was so mad at God. I was like, why is he doing this? Like, it was hard. It was hard because my son was 4, and he didn't know what was happening. Craig passed away, and now I'm a single parent for the first time. I'm 20 years old, and I'm trying to go to school. I'm trying to work, but I am beyond depressed. Um, at that time in 2008 was the hardest year of my life. So it was the hardest year of my life. And Marquise and me had just after high school, after we dated, we actually broke up. And in 2008, we had reconnected, but he was out the picture now because he had to go away, and so I'm just here by myself. Craig's gone, and I'm depressed. And I'm talking about it to my friends, but nobody can relate to me because I'm the only one with a baby out of all my friends at the time that I wasn't hanging around. So nobody could really relate to how I was feeling, and that was understandable. So I I checked in. I checked into a therapist, and the housing that I was staying in, Achievability, they actually had a therapist who worked for them, and I used to go see him. And talking it out really helped me because I used to cry on a train, in public. I used to cry at work. I was crying all the time. I started drinking really heavily. I was smoking cigarettes like heavily, but high in it. So nobody even knew that I was smoking cigarettes. But I would go out partying. Once I turned 21. Oh, I started drinking because Craig passed away in April. I turned 21 in September. Um, and I was just partying all the time. I always just wanted to be in a club. I was drinking, getting belligerently drunk, and that's how I dealt with it. And I still worked, and I was grateful enough to have Craig's grandmother. She helped me out on the weekends and watched Craig for me when daycare was closed. And then my stepfather, he actually used to come pick him up and take him back to my mom and him. They would keep him for me on the weekends as well. So I had a support system, and I took advantage of it because as much as I could, I was like, all right, I'm working. I gotta work. I gotta work. I gotta work. I gotta work. And I was always working. So I kind of felt like my son, he was going through it too, because when he was going to daycare, he would color pictures, and he had asked me one day, like, Mom, what's your favorite color? And I was like, my favorite color is pink. And he's like, my favorite color is green. So he would only use pink and green for every picture that he would color. So one half of the paper would be green, and the other half of the picture would be pink. And he was always thinking about me. He was always thinking about me. He was so protective of me. And to this day, he's very protective of me. And I just love him. And I'm grateful for him because with all the challenges that we have faced over the years of being homeless together, we didn't leave the shelter till he was 3 years old. And he still remembers like us living there. And just to see him flourish and grow, with him having he had a speech delay, and he stutters, and he just overcoming we just overcoming everything that came our way, and to this day we still have overcome a lot of challenges. um, yeah, but so I'm going to stop that story and just talk about present day. I have 5 children. The oldest is 15. I have an 8-year-old. I have a 5-year-old. I have a 2-year-old who's about to be 3, and my little guy, he's about to be 1. I'm talking. Can't never see. I can never do what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm so sidetracked today. I'm sorry. I didn't expect to get so emotional filming this episode with you guys, but I just wanted to say that anything is possible if you don't give up. Believe in yourself and surround yourself with people who care about you and want to see you do good. I'm happy to say that I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones because I had a great support system.